U.S. Cellular Field is a baseball park in Chicago, Illinois. It is the home of the Chicago White Sox of Major League Baseball's American League. The park is owned by the Illinois Sports Facilities Authority, but operated by the White Sox. The park opened for the 1991 season, after the White Sox had spent 81 years at the original Comiskey Park. The new park, completed at a cost of $167 million, also opened with the Comiskey Park name, but became U.S. Cellular Field in 2003 after U.S. Cellular bought the naming rights at $68 million over 20 years. It hosted the MLB All-Star Game that same year. Many sportscasters and fans continue to use the name Comiskey Park. Prior to its demolition, the old Comiskey Park was the oldest in-use ballpark in Major League Baseball, a title now held by Fenway Park in Boston. The current public address announcer is Gene Honda, who also serves as the PA announcer for the Chicago Blackhawks. The stadium is situated just to the west of the Dan Ryan Expressway in Chicago's Armour Square neighborhood, adjacent to the more famous neighborhood of Bridgeport. It was built directly across 35th Street from Old Comiskey Park, which was demolished to make room for a parking lot that serves the venue. Old Comiskey's home plate location is represented by a marble plaque on the sidewalk next to U.S. Cellular Field, and the foul lines are painted in the parking lot. Also, the spectator ramp across 35th Street is designed in such a way that it echoes the contour of the old first base grandstand. History: the stadium was the first new major sporting facility built in Chicago since Chicago Stadium in 1929. It was also the last one built before the wave of new retro classic ballparks in the 1990s and 2000s. However, a few design features from the old park were retained. The front facade of the park features arched windows. Most notable is the exploding scoreboard, which pays homage to the original installed by Bill Veeck at the old park in 1960. The original field dimensions and seating configuration were very similar to those of Royals Stadium in Kansas City, which had been the last baseball-only park built in the majors, in 1973. As originally built, the park was criticized by many fans because of the height of the upper deck. The original architect, HOK Sport, wanted to eliminate the overhang problems present in many stadiums built since the 1970s. With this in mind, the upper deck was set back over the lower deck, and the stands rose fairly gradually. While it gave nearly every seat in the upper level an unobstructed view of the field, it also created one of the highest upper decks in baseball. The first row of seats in the upper deck at the new stadium is as far from the field as the highest row of seats in the upper deck at the old stadium. Fans sitting in this area didn't get much chance for relief, as it is one of the few parks in Major League Baseball that do not allow fans sitting in the upper deck to venture anywhere else in the park, for example lower deck concourse. In response to fan complaints, the stadium has undergone numerous renovations since the 2001 season in order to retrofit the facility to current architectural trends. These changes have included building a multi-tiered concourse beyond center field, adjusting the fences to make the outfield less symmetrical and, most significantly, the removal of 6,600 seats at the top of the upper deck. The uppermost story of the park now has a white and black screen behind the top row of seats and is topped by a flat canopy roof supported by black steel truss supports that obstruct the view of a few seats. The original blue seats were also replaced by forest green seats. The new green and black color scheme, upper-level screen set back from the outer wall and canopy roof resemble features of the old Comiskey Park as well as other classic baseball stadiums. The White Sox have also added murals to the interior concourses, a prominent feature of the old stadium. The stadium houses 103 luxury suites located on 2 levels, as well as 1,822 club seats on 300-level mezzanine between the lower deck and upper deck. The club seats receive in-seat waitstaff and benefit from an enclosed concourse with multiple television viewing areas and bar-style concessions. The stadium has 400 wheelchair-accessible seats, 38 public restrooms, 12 escalators and 15 elevators. The new suites were one example of why the old Comiskey Park was demolished, as suites generate more revenue. Attractions features, fan deck, a panoramic view of the playing field on the two-tiered fan deck atop the center field concession stands. Fan deck includes catered food and beverage service consisting of chicken sandwiches, hot dogs, hamburgers, potato chips, popcorn, beer, soda, and water. Fan deck can accommodate around 150 people. Bullpen Sports Bar, a two-tiered, open-air section located in right field next to the visitors' bullpen with food and drinks. Rain Room, a place where fans can cool off during hot game days. Near section 107 and 537. Fundamentals Deck, located in left field. This 15,000 square foot fundamentals area is devoted to young White Sox fans, providing them with the opportunity to learn the fundamentals of baseball. It features a youth-sized wiffle ball diamond for coaching clinics, batting and pitching cages, batting swing boxes for proper batting techniques and areas for base running and skills instruction. Speed pitch machines, near section 164 and in the fundamentals deck. Chicagoland Plumbing Council Shower, a carryover from old Comiskey Park where fans can cool off during hot game days. Near section 160. Scout Seats, located directly behind home plate and contains 314 leather seats. The Patio, located just behind the right center field fence at field level. The patio serves for group outings such as the Bullpen Sports Bar and can accommodate from 50 to 100 people. Gold Coast Tickets Club, located behind home plate. Features include a restaurant buffet, open bar, open-air seating in padded, extra-wide 22 inches seats, private restrooms, flat-screen televisions throughout the club and seating area, private elevator entrance behind home plate at Gate 4, early admittance into the ballpark for select games to watch White Sox batting practice from the outfield. Mini-Mir Plus or Minus Oso Sculpture, located behind section 164. Carlton Fisk Sculpture, located behind section 164. Charles Comiskey Sculpture, located behind section 100. Louis Aparicio Sculpture, located behind section 100. Nellie Fox Sculpture, located behind section 100. Billy Pierce Sculpture, located behind section 164. Harold Baines Sculpture, located behind section 105. Frank Thomas Sculpture, located behind section 160. Paul Knakos Sculpture, located behind section 160. Jim Thome Plaque, located on the center field fan deck. The description of the plaque reads: on June 4, 2008, Chicago White Sox slugger Jim Thome became the first player ever to hit a baseball onto the fan deck of U.S. Cellular Field as the Sox beat the Kansas City Royals. He duplicated the tape measure feat on September 30, 2008 as the White Sox beat the Minnesota Twins, 1-0, in a one-game playoff to win the American League Central Division Championship. The two blue seats, the seats where Paul Knakos' grand slam and Scott Podsednik's game-winning home run that landed in Game 2 of the 2005 World Series, are the same original blue seats in use at that game. White Sox Champions Brick Plaza, located at the main entrance to the park. The plaza is dedicated to the 2005 World Series champion White Sox and their fans. Each legacy brick is inscribed with a personalized message that has become part of a new baseball diamond-shaped plaza outside the main entrance to the ballpark. A life-sized white, bronze and granite sculpture celebrating the 2005 White Sox World Series championship that stands at the center of the plaza, with a historical timeline of the franchise along the diamond's base paths. The statue weighs over 25 tons. Old Comiskey Park's home plate, located just north of the park by Gate 5 in Lot B. Chi Sox Bar and Grill, a multi-level restaurant and bar located inside of Gate 5. The establishment features both indoor and outdoor seating and a wide variety of food, drinks, and entertainment. Chicago Sports Depot, a Chicago White Sox, Bears, Blackhawks, Bulls, and Fire merchandise store located next to Bacardi at the park at Gate 5. Renovations Editions equals 1996 a 99 seasons equals 1996 a bullpen bar was added in right field. 1998 the batter's eye was painted from blue to black. 1999 a new Bill Veeck-esque showerhead in left field and a rain room in right field for fans to cool off during hot summertime games. 2001 07 seasons in 2001, extensive renovations were started by HKS Sports and Entertainment Group to make the park more fan-friendly. Phase I, 3 rows of nearly 2,000 seats were added along the field between the dugouts and the foul poles. Bullpens relocated to allow fans to see pitchers warming up. Former bullpens filled with new seats. 2-tiered terrace seating area added outside the bullpen sports bar. Distances to the outfield wall were changed, most noticeably down the foul lines, where the bullpens and the bullpen sports bar are now located. Outfield seating area extended to the fence. A full-service restaurant, dubbed the Stadium Club, is introduced with windows overlooking the right field corner. Capacities increased from 44,321 to 45,936. Phase II. Old backstop with netted roof was replaced with a new roofless backstop which allows foul balls to drop into seats directly behind home plate. Multi-tiered batter's eye built in center field. Main concourse upgraded with brick facade, stainless steel countertops and decorative lighting. Club-level concourse enclosed and carpeted with heat air conditioning and comfortable seating areas throughout. Party deck was added in center field, just below the scoreboard and above the batter's eye. Phase III. Scoreboard and video boards were upgraded. Full-color, high-resolution 28x 53-foot video screen added to center field scoreboard. 2 300-foot-long, 5-foot-high video LED ribbon boards added along the upper deck facade. Design upgrades consistent with the lower deck finished on outfield and upper deck concourses. Fan deck, featuring food and beverage service in an elevated patio-like atmosphere, built on center field concourse. Outfield steel framework and underside of canopy roof painted dark gray. Concrete and seating areas and on pedestrian ramps stained gray. A life-size bronze statue of Charles Comiskey placed on the center field concourse behind Section 100. Capacities increased from 45,936 to 47,098. Phase III renovations cost approximately $20 million. Phase IV. Upper deck seating area 8 rows and 6,600 seats were removed from the top of the ballpark's upper deck. A flat roof, elevated 20 feet above the seating area, has replaced the old sloped canopy-style roof, covering 13 of the 21 rows of seating. Upper deck concourse was partially enclosed from the weather by a translucent wall. Fan deck in center field upgraded to feature tiered seating and standing room. Lower terrace balcony added to provide an additional party area and outdoor seating. The outfield wall was redone with pictures of White Sox players who've had their number retired. A life-size bronze statue of Minnie Mia ± also placed on the center field concourse behind Section 164. Capacity is decreased from 47,098 to 40,615. Phase IV renovations cost approximately $28 million. Phase V. 314-seat scout seating area directly behind home plate added, which offers ticket holders behind-the-scenes access to the ballpark and the world-class amenities, including free food, for one inclusive price. Fundamentals deck, an area for kids to work on various baseball skills, was added above the left field concourse. Green seats, modeled after those in the original Comiskey Park, replaced the old blue seats in the club level and some scattered areas around home plate. The bleachers in left center field were painted green. A life-size bronze statue of Carlton Fisk that was placed on August 7 on the center field concourse behind Section 164. Phase 6, green seats reminiscent of those in the original Comiskey Park replaced the old blue seats in the entire upper deck and the lower deck between the dugouts. Enclosed, ground-level restaurant was completed, providing a lounge and dining area for the scout seats. New banners were hung down on the outfield light towers. One for the 2005 World Series, one for the 1906 and 1917 World Series, one for all White Sox American League pennants, and one for all the division championships. The flags for these titles, now on the banners, were replaced with flags of all the Sox logos in club history. Life-size bronze statues of Nellie Fox and Luis Aparicio placed on the center field concourse behind Section 100. Phase 7. Green seats replaced the old blue seats in the lower deck from the dugouts and the entire outfield seating area. The green seats between the dugout and the foul poles have been slightly turned, redirecting them toward the center of the field. The seats where Paul Konerko's grand slam and Scott Podsednik's walk-off home run landed in Game 2 of the 2005 World Series are the same original blue seats in use at that game and stand out from the all-green seats. The scoreboard in right field was painted green. A new premium seating restaurant named the Jim Beam Club is located in the former press box behind home plate on the stadium's Diamond Suites 200 level. A new press box located on the first base side on the Diamond Suites 400 level. The facility features 32 flat-screen televisions, wireless internet access and seating for 100 working members of the media. A new custom T-shirt shop, a life-size bronze statue of Billy Pierce that was placed on July 23 on the center field concourse behind Section 164. A Thome ticker counting down to Jim Thome's 500th career home run. The ticker was located in right field on the right advertising board. The ticker was then taken down after the 2007 season. The beginning of the White Sox Champions Brick Plaza in front of the stadium and phase I of brick sales. Extensive renovations Renovations added not part of the original plan. 2008 season, the Illinois Sports Facilities Authority unveiled the first environmentally friendly permeable paving parking lot to be used by a Major League sports facility on April 8. The new lot saves taxpayer money by substantially reducing the amount of water entering Chicago's stormwater system, improving overall water quality and help reduce the urban heat island effect. The White Sox Legacy Brick program unveiled its Brick Plaza outside U.S. Cellular Field on April 11. Each legacy brick is inscribed with a personalized message and has become part of a new baseball diamond-shaped plaza outside the main entrance to the ballpark. A life-sized white bronze and granite sculpture weighing over 25 tons that celebrates the 2005 White Sox World Series championship stands at the center of the plaza, with a historical timeline of the franchise along the diamond's base paths. Players on the sculpture from the 2005 team are Paul Konerko, Joe Creed, Orlando Hernandez, Jeff Bloom and Juan Uribe. Plasma flat-screen television sets were added throughout the outfield concourse and at the top of its beer concession stands. A life-size bronze statue of Harold Baines that was placed on July 20 on the right field concourse behind Section 105. 2009 season, about $15 million in renovations were done to Gate 5 to improve access to the park. The demolition of the easternmost portion of the pedestrian ramp and removal of the top two levels of the easternmost footbridge across 35th Street, reducing it to one level with continuing access to the park on the main concourse level. The second footbridge at Gate 5, about 75 yards west of the East Bridge, continues to offer access to the park on 3 levels. The project also included installation of escalators and a new, weather-protected enclosure and installation of elevators which will provide additional access for fans with disabilities. The project was completed by opening day on April 7 as the White Sox defeated the Kansas City Royals 4-2. Inside the park, a new scoreboard with 913,000 LED lights replaced the older out-of-town scoreboard in right field. In addition to displaying both lineups, the board shows season stats for the current batter and pitcher. It also serves as an upgrade to the old around-the-league scoreboard that it replaced. While the old scoreboard showed only the current innings, scores, and pitchers' jersey numbers, the new board is capable of showing balls, strikes, outs, locations of any base or runners, and the current batter and pitcher by last name instead of by number. A slight disadvantage is that the new board can only show 4 games at a time in this manner, whereas the old board showed every game in progress simultaneously. A small plaque honoring Jim Thome located on the center field fan deck for his 464-foot home run shot that landed there, becoming the first player ever to do so on June 4, 2008. The White Sox defeated the Royals in that game. Thome duplicated this feat again on September 30, 2008 in a one-game playoff against AL Central rival Minnesota Twins. His home run proved to be the game winner in a 1-0 shutout to win the AL Central. For White Sox players, a new hydrotherapy room with 3 combinational hot and cold whirlpool tubs, an underwater treadmill that can curb problems relating to the abdominals, back and knee, as well as strengthens the muscles and hip, is installed in one of the tubs. The catch was written on the left center field wall above Billy Pierce's image, at the location where Dwayne Wise made a spectacular catch to rob Gabby Kapler of a ninth-inning home run and preserve Mark Buell's perfect game on July 23, 2009. 2010 a Euro 16 seasons, 2010, a new outdoor beer garden named TBD's is installed by July 26 at Gate 5. The area served beer, wine, soda and water. TBD's also had 12 flat-screen TVs. TBD's was taken down and replaced by Chi Sox Bar and Grill in 2011. Bacardi at the park is open from 11 a.m. on days when the Sox have home games. Although it is technically outside the park and accessible with or without a game ticket, fans must be 21 or older to enter. Frank Thomas' number and picture was added to the outfield wall as his number was retired. 2011, a new metro station on the Rock Island Line worth $7.9 million was planned to be opened in 2009, but due to a year-long delay of construction the station opened in 2011 after groundbreaking on June 29, 2009. The new station is located east of the ballpark just beyond the I-90/I-94 Dan Ryan Expressway. A multi-level restaurant and bar inside Gate 5 called Chi Sox Bar and Grill. The establishment features both indoor and outdoor seating and a wide variety of food, drinks, and entertainment for U.S. Cellular Field guests that started in April 2011. Chi Sox Bar and Grill will be open during the baseball season, but plans made the restaurant and bar a year-round establishment. A life-size bronze statue of Frank Thomas that was unveiled on July 31, against the Boston Red Sox. It is the 8th placed on the outfield concourse. 2012, Chicago Sports Depot, a new merchandise store located right next to Gate 5 and Chi Sox Bar and Grill. Featuring White Sox, Bears, Blackhawks, Bulls, Cubs, and other Chicago area sports teams merchandise. The store opened on November 19, 2011. 2016, 3 new HD video boards will be installed in the ballpark in time for the 2016 season. The auxiliary boards in left and right field, and the main video board in center, will all be replaced with new HD screens. The project will be funded via the Sox capital repairs budget. Retired numbers: there are 11 retired numbers on the facade of the home plate club. Ballpark firsts. First game equals, April 18, 1991 a Euro Detroit Tigers 16, White Sox 0. Umpires a Euro Steve Palermo, Mike Riley, Larry Young, Rich Garcia. Managers a Euro Jeff Torborg, White Sox, Sparky Anderson, Tigers. Starting pitchers a Euro Jack McDowell, White Sox, Frank Tanana, Tigers. Ceremonial pitcher Euro former Illinois Governor Jim Thompson. Attendance a Euro 42,191. Batting batter a Euro Tony Phillips, White Sox batter a Euro Tim Raines, hitter Euro Alan Trammell, run a Euro Travis Fryman, White Sox run a Euro Ron Karkovice, RBI a Euro Alan Trammell, White Sox RBI a Euro Dan Pasqua, single a Euro Alan Trammell, double a Euro John Shelby, triple a Euro Tony Phillips, home run a Euro Cecil Fielder, White Sox home run a Euro Frank Thomas, grand slam a Euro Kevin Romine, IPHR a Euro Mark Newfield, stolen base a Euro Lou Whitaker, White Sox stolen base a Euro Tim Raines, sacrifice hit a Euro Joey Cora, sacrifice fly a Euro Matt Merrillo, cycle a Euro Mike Blowers, White Sox cycle a Euro Chris Singleton. Pitching win a Euro Frank Tanana, White Sox win a Euro Brian Drummond, loss a Jack McDowell, opposing loss a Paul Gibson, shutout a Frank Tanana, White Sox shutout a Jack McDowell, save a Jerry Gletton, White Sox save a Bobby Thigpen, hit by pitch a Dave Johnson hit Carlton Fisk, wild pitch a Mark copyright Lido Par copyright Res, balk a Brian Harvey, no-hitter a Mark Boole, opposing no-hitter a Francisco Liriano, perfect game a Mark Boole. Equals other firsts equals, doubleheader a Minnesota Twins, error a Robin Ventura, use as a neutral site a Florida Marlins vs Montreal Expos. Counted as home games for the Marlins, these games were moved to Chicago due to Hurricane Ivan in Florida. The Marlins were already in Chicago at the time, having just played a series with the Chicago Cubs. First White Sox foul ball was hit by Sammy Sosa April 18, 1991. Transportation to the stadium. U.S. Cellular Field can be reached by using the CTA's L Rapid Transit system. The stadium station stops are Sox a 35th for the Red Line and 35 Bronxville IIT for the Green Line. The Red Line is also used by Cubs fans to reach Wrigley Field on the north side of Chicago. When the White Sox take on the Cubs every year, usually in June, many fans will use the Red Line to get to the game. The series dubbed the Crosstown Classic or the Windy City Showdown. A new metro station opened on the Rock Island Line in 2011, which helps fans with more accessibility. U.S. Cellular Field is just west of the I-90/94th Dan Ryan Expressway. The Dan Ryan was under construction in 2006 a 2007 in hopes of relieving traffic congestion. The park has 7 main entrances. Gate 1 is located on the south side of the park in right field, Gate 2 is located on the southwest side of the park down the right field line, Gate 3 is located on the west side of the park on the first base side, Gate 4 is on the northwest side of the park behind home plate, Gate 5 is located on the north side of the park on the third base side, Gate 6 is located on the northeast side of the park down the left field line and Gate 7 is located on the east side of the park in left field. The main level is accessible only by fans who have a ticket to a seat in the lower level. The park has 8 main parking lots. Notable games events. 1990s April 18, 1991. The inaugural game of the ballpark. The White Sox were defeated by the Detroit Tigers 16-0. Attendance, April 22, 1991. Frank Thomas hits the first White Sox home run in New Comiskey Park as the Sox defeat the Baltimore Orioles, 8-7, in the first night contest in the new ballpark. Attendance, April 9, 1993. Bo Jackson homers with his first swing of the bat in the club's home opener against the New York Yankees as he becomes the first major leaguer in history to play with an artificial hip. The White Sox would lose though 11-6. Attendance, June 22, 1993, Carlton Fisk catches his 2,226th game against the Texas Rangers, breaking Bob Boone's record for games caught in a career. The White Sox won 3-2. Attendance, September 27, 1993, the Sox clinched their second AL West title and first in 10 years by defeating the Seattle Mariners, 4-2. Bo Jackson's 3-run home run in the 6th inning of this game is one of the more enduring images in the ballpark's history. Attendance, October 5, 1993, New Comiskey hosted its first ever playoff game, Game 1 of the 1993 American League Championship Series. The Sox lost to the Toronto Blue Jays, 7-3. The park also played host to Games 2 and 6 of the series, which the Sox lost, 4-2. Attendance, September 14, 1997, Carlton Fisk's number 72 was retired by the White Sox as the Sox played the Cleveland Indians. The Sox would lose 8-3. Attendance, May 18, 1998, Mike Blowers of the Oakland Athletics hits the first cycle at U.S. Cellular Field. The Athletics defeated the White Sox 14-0. Attendance, July 6, 1999, Chris Singleton of the White Sox completes the cycle against the Kansas City Royals. Singleton's cycle wouldn't be enough as the Sox lost 8-7. Attendance equals 2000 equals April 22, 2000. The White Sox and the Detroit Tigers end up in 2 brawls in the game. This one lasts for almost 30 minutes and sees 8 players from both sides get kicked out along with Sox manager Jerry Manuel. A record number of players would be fined and subsequently suspended. One of the more lingering memories is Sox relief pitcher Keith Foulke suffering a gash on his face courtesy of a sucker punch from the side. The Sox win the game 14-6 and use it as a rallying point for the rest of the season. Attendance, April 27, 2000, Jose Copyright Valenta N of the White Sox completes the cycle against the Baltimore Orioles as he helps the Sox beat the O's 13-4. Attendance, June 19, 2000, the White Sox made baseball history when they began selling vegetarian hot dogs during games. The White Sox were playing the Cleveland Indians and the White Sox defeated them 6-1. Attendance, May 2, 2002, Mike Cameron of the Seattle Mariners, a former White Sox player, blasts 4 solo home runs to tie a major league record to help the Mariners win 15-4. The Mariners scored 10 runs in the first inning and all of Cameron's home runs were hit within the first 6 innings. Cameron hit a fly out to the warning track in the 9th, just missing the record-setting number of home runs in a game. Attendance, September 13, 2002, the Rolling Stones play the first concert in stadium history while on their Licks tour. September 19, 2002, Kansas City Royals first base coach Tom Gamboa was attacked on the field by 2 fans, William Ligg, Jr. and son, during a game against the White Sox. The father and son, highly intoxicated, ran onto the field unprovoked, tackled Gamboa, and threw several punches before being restrained by players and security. Ligg, Jr. was later found to have been possessing a knife. Gamboa suffered permanent hearing loss as a result of the attack. The Royals defeated the White Sox 2-1. Attendance, July 15, 2003, the park hosted the 74th All-Star Game and the American League defeated the National League 7-6. White Sox All-Stars included Esteban Luza, Magalio Order plus or minuses and Carl Everett. Attendance, July 25, 2003, Frank Thomas hits his 400th career home run against the Tampa Bay Devil Rays to help the Sox win 7-2. Attendance, September 13, 14, 2004, U.S. Cellular Field hosted 2 games between the Florida Marlins and the Montreal Expos, due to Hurricane Ivan in Florida. The Marlins swept the 2-game series in Chicago by scores of 6-3 and 8-6. The series would return to Florida to finish the last 3 games, with the Expos taking 2. Game 1 attendance, Game 2 attendance, April 16, 2005, Mark Buell finished a game against the Seattle Mariners in only 1 hour and 39 minutes, giving up only 1 run and 3 hits, and backed by only 2 White Sox runs, both homers by Paul Konerko. In the game, he threw just 106 pitches. Subtracting the time spent between innings, the game took only 63.5 minutes to play. Attendance, August 7, 2005, a life-size bronze statue of Carlton Fisk was unveiled on the center field concourse behind Section 164. The White Sox defeated the Seattle Mariners 3-1. Attendance, October 22, 2005, the first ever World Series game at U.S. Cellular Field as the White Sox defeated the Houston Astros 5-3. Attendance, October 23, 2005, Paul Konerko hits a grand slam against the Houston Astros to take the lead 6-4 for the Sox in Game 2 of the World Series. Scott Podsednik hits the walk-off solo home run for the Sox to win 7-6. Attendance, April 2, 2006, the Sox opened the 2006 season with the unveiling of their 2005 World Series championship banner on the left center light tower. 3 other banners were placed on the other 3 light towers. One for the 1906 and 1917 World Series championships by the Sox on the far left light tower. The one on the right center tower is for all the Sox American League championships. The one on the far right is for all the division championships. The Sox defeated the Cleveland Indians 10-4. Attendance: April 4, 2006, Ring Day. The 2005 White Sox received their championship rings. The Sox were defeated by the Indians 8-2. Attendance: May 20, 2006, in the bottom of the second inning, Brian Anderson of the White Sox hit a sacrifice fly, attempting to score catcher A.J. Pierzynski. Pierzynski collided with Cub catcher Michael Barrett as Barrett attempted to tag Pierzynski out, knocking Barrett over and jarring the ball loose. After slapping home plate in celebration, Pierzynski began to walk away, but Barrett blocked his path and punched him in the jaw. A bench-clearing brawl ensued, and Pierzynski, Barrett, White Sox outfielder Brian Anderson and Cubs first baseman John Mabry were ejected. Umpires debated for 15 minutes over who would be ejected. When play finally resumed, outfielder Scott Podsednik promptly got on base, loading the bases up, and second baseman Tadahito Iguchi cleared them with a grand slam. The White Sox won the game, 7-0. Attendance: June 20, 2006, the White Sox scored 11 runs in one inning against the St. Louis Cardinals and defeated them 20-6. Attendance: June 25, 2006, the Sox faced the Houston Astros in a rematch of the 2005 World Series. The score was 9-2 in favor of the Astros until, in the bottom of the eighth inning, Tadahito Iguchi hit a 3-run homer to cut the Astros' lead to 4 runs. In the bottom of the ninth, with the bases loaded, Iguchi hit a grand slam to tie the game 9-9. The Sox went on to lose 10-9 in extra innings. Attendance: April 18, 2007, Mark Buell throws a no-hitter against the Texas Rangers. The Sox won 6-0 with a grand slam from Jermaine Dye and a pair of solo homers from Jim Thome. It was the first no-hitter at U.S. Cellular Field. Attendance: September 16, 2007, Jim Thome's 500th career home run against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim was as a walk-off as the Sox defeated the Angels 9-7. Attendance: April 8, 2008, the Illinois Sports Facilities Authority unveiled the first environmentally friendly permeable paving parking lot to be used by a Major League Sports facility in Parking Lot L. April 11, 2008. The White Sox unveiled their new brick plaza dedicated to the 2005 World Series champions and their fans. The Sox were defeated by the Detroit Tigers 5-2. Attendance: May 7, 2008, Carlos Gomez of the Minnesota Twins hits for the cycle and helps defeat the White Sox 13-1. Attendance: May 22, 2008, Welcome Back Carlton Fisk Night. Fisk returns to the White Sox organization and becomes a team ambassador. Former Sox players Bo Jackson and Ron Kittle joined in the pre-game ceremonies and 3 former players entered the park in center field on motorcycles. Former teammates of Fisk were honored and announced by Ed Farmer such as Harold Baines, Joey Cora, Ozzie Giller, Copyright N and others. Former Sox general manager Roland Hemond was also in the special ceremony. Hemond brought Fisk into the organization in 1981 after Fisk played 11 years with the Boston Red Sox. The White Sox defeated the Cleveland Indians 3-1. Attendance: July 20, 2008, a life-size bronze statue of Harold Baines was unveiled on the center field concourse behind Section 105. The White Sox were defeated by the Kansas City Royals 8-7 and Jim Thome of the Sox collected his 2000th career hit. Attendance: August 5, 2008, Ken Griffey, Jr. made his White Sox home debut against the Detroit Tigers. Griffey was 1 for 6 and struck out 3 times. In the bottom of the 14th inning, Nick Swisher hit a 3-run walk-off home run to help the White Sox win 10-8. Attendance: August 14, 2008, the White Sox became just the 6th team to hit 4 consecutive home runs in a game, accomplishing the feat against the Royals. In the bottom of the 6th inning with 2 outs, Jim Thome hit a 3-run homer followed by solo home runs from Paul Knico, Alexi Ramirez, and Juan Uribe to take a 9-2 lead to an eventual win over the Royals. Carlos Quentin was also hit by a pitch for the sixth game in a row. Attendance: September 14, 2008, White Sox pitcher Javier Vazquez reached his 2000th career strikeout against Detroit Tigers hitter Edgar Renteria. Vazquez is the 62nd player to accomplish that feat. Vazquez finished the night with 2,002 career strikeouts along with a 4-2 win, improving his season record to 12. September 13, 2008, the Sox defeated the Minnesota Twins 1-0 in a one-game playoff to determine the 2008 American League Central Division champion. John Danks pitched an 8-inning two-hit shutout. The lone run was a Jim Thome home run to center field that fell in front of the fan deck. Brian Anderson clinched the title with a diving catch in right center field to end the game. This game is known as the Blackout Game due to the fact that fans were asked to wear all black clothing. Attendance: January 20, 2009, the White Sox displayed a banner outside of Gate 6 to honor White Sox fan Barack Obama's presidential inauguration. July 7, 2009, Paul Knocko of the White Sox hit 3 home runs against the Cleveland Indians. The first home run was in the second inning off Jeremy Sowers, the second home run was a grand slam in the sixth inning off Chris Perez, and the third home run came in the seventh inning off Winston Abreu. The White Sox defeated the Indians 10-6. Attendance: July 23, 2009, the first perfect game and second no-hitter at U.S. Cellular Field. Mark Buell struck out 6 batters and recorded 11 ground ball outs to get a perfect game against the Tampa Bay Rays. It was the second no-hitter of Buell's career, the last occurring on April 18, 2007, against the Texas Rangers. He is the first player since Hideo Numo to throw multiple no-hitters, and the first to throw a perfect game since Randy Johnson did it May 18, 2004 against the Atlanta Braves at Turner Field. Ironically, Buell's first no-hitter was 2 hours and 3 minutes and Buell's second was just as long. Another coincidence was home plate umpire Eric Cooper, who has called both Buell's no-hitters. Yet another irony is that drummer Cuben Castro, who caught for Buell, wears the number 27 on his jersey, the number of consecutive outs needed for a perfect game. It was also Cooper's third no-hitter called, with his first one with Hideo Numo on April 4, 2001. Attendance: July 30, 2009, Illinois Governor Pat Quinn presented Mark Buell with a proclamation prior to a White Sox-Yankees game, declaring July 30 as Mark Buell Day in the state of Illinois. The day was to honor Buell for his perfect game and his most consecutive retired batters. The White Sox defeated the Yankees 3-2. Attendance: August 2, 2009, New York Yankees outfielder Melky Cabrera hit for the cycle, becoming the first Yankee to do so since Tony Fernandez in 1995. Cabrera's feat helped defeat the White Sox 8-5. Attendance: 2010s June 25, 2010, Carlos Zambrano of the Chicago Cubs had a meltdown against the White Sox, giving up 4 runs in the first inning. He then proceeded to mount a furious tirade in the Cubs dugout. Cameras showed Zambrano appearing to yell at Dirk Lee, whom the pitcher apparently blamed for failing to field a sharply hit ball off the bat of Juan Pierre, resulting in a leadoff double. The Cubs coaching staff had to separate the two players and manager Lou Piniella opted not to send Zambrano back to the mound in the second inning. Cubs GM Jim Hendry suspended Zambrano indefinitely for his behavior in the game. The White Sox won the game 6-0. Attendance: July 8, 2010, John Danks of the White Sox records his first career shutout against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, taking a no-hitter to the 7th inning. Danks only gave up 2 hits while striking out 7 with no walks. The White Sox only scored 1 run on a Paul Knocko sacrifice fly. The game was completed in 1 hour and 50 minutes. Attendance: July 11, 2010, Andruw Jones of the White Sox hit his 400th career home run in a 15-5 win over the Kansas City Royals. Attendance: August 27, 2010. The White Sox hosted Blackhawks night against the New York Yankees as championship trophies from the 1985 Bears, the 90s Bulls, The 2009 Euro 10 Blackhawks and the White Sox's own 2005 hardware, were all on display during a Gathering of Champions ceremony. Chicago is the first city to win all 4 major sports championships since 1985. Super Bowl 20 MVP Richard Dent represented the Bears, Mark Buell was there for the White Sox and coach Joel Quenneville was on hand for the Blackhawks. Scottie Pippen was supposed to be the Bulls' unregistered trademark representative, but he was late leaving those duties to Chairman Jerry Reinsdorf. Pippen was later spotted on the suite level just as the game was starting. The White Sox defeated the Yankees 9-4. Attendance. This event also brought together the managers head coaches of teams that won championships against teams from Philadelphia during their previous 12 months. Yankees manager Joe Girardi, whose Yankees won their 27th championship against the Phillies the previous November, and Quenneville, whose Blackhawks won their first championship since 1961 in Philadelphia against the Flyers. August 29, 2010. The White Sox hosted Frank Thomas Day at the ballpark against the New York Yankees. Frank Thomas' jersey was retired that day, along with his face put up on the legendary wall in left center field next to Billy Pierce on his left and Carlton Fisk on his right, and also right under the catch logo. Yankees defeated the White Sox 2-1. Attendance, September 18, 2010. 10,000 Nancy Faust bobblehead dolls were presented to fans by the White Sox before their game, with a ceremony held by the team in her honor of her retirement as the White Sox organist. The White Sox lost the game to the Detroit Tigers 6-3. Attendance, May 3, 2011, Francisco Liriano of the Minnesota Twins throws a no-hitter against the White Sox for a 1-0 shutout with a Jason Kibble home run. Liriano entered the game with a 9.00+ ERA on the season and recorded his first career complete game with 6 walks and 2 strikeouts to lower his season ERA to 6.61. This was the first no-hitter for a visiting team at U.S. Cellular Field. Attendance, July 31, 2011, the White Sox unveiled a replica statue of Frank Thomas on the outfield concourse behind Section 160. The White Sox played against the Boston Red Sox and lost at a score of 5-3. Attendance, July 3, 2012, the White Sox scored 19 runs against the 2-time defending AL champion Texas Rangers. This was the most the White Sox scored at the Cell since June 20, 2006 against the St. Louis Cardinals. First-time All-Star Chris Sale recorded his 10th win of the season. The final score was 19-2. Attendance, September 27, 2014, Paul Knecko was honored before the game for his retirement from baseball. A statue of himself was unveiled on the left field concourse next to Frank Thomas' statue. His number 14 was retired the following year. Knecko was the last member of the 2005 champion White Sox left on the team at the time of his retirement. The White Sox defeated the Kansas City Royals 5-4. Attendance. White Sox record at home. Note, 1994 season incomplete due to players' strike. There were 3 ties, the first in the 1995 season against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. The second tie happened in the 1998 season against the Blue Jays at then Comiskey Park. The third tie took place in the 1999 season against the Twins at Comiskey Park. In film and other media, U.S. Cellular Field has appeared in films such as Rookie of the Year, Major League 2, Little Big League, My Best Friend's Wedding, and The Ladies' Man. In Rookie of the Year the stadium played the role of Dodger Stadium, and in Little Big League the stadium played the role of all opposing ballparks except for Yankee Stadium and Fenway Park. Commercials for the PGA Tour, Nike, Reebok and the Boys and Girls Clubs of America have been filmed at the park. Notes, Nathaniel Hallen, Marked Seats Meaningful to Sox Stars, Post-Tribune, March 30, 2007. See also: Gene Honda Public Address Announcer for the White Sox, DePaul Basketball, Chicago Blackhawks in the NCAA Men's Division I Basketball Championship Final Four. Roger Bessard Head groundskeeper for the White Sox. Nancy Faust longtime stadium organist for the White Sox. Laurie Moreland new stadium organist for the White Sox, replacing Nancy Faust. Southpaw White Sox mascot. Camelback Ranch the spring training home of the White Sox shared with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Wrigley Field home of the Chicago Cubs. Soldier Field home of the Chicago Bears. United Center home of the Chicago Bulls and the Chicago Blackhawks. Toyota Park home of the Chicago Fire. Allstate Arena home of the Chicago Wolves, Chicago Sky, and the DePaul Blue Demons college basketball team. Also former home of the now-defunct Chicago Rush of the Arena Football League. Sears Center home of the Chicago Slaughter. Other venues and events with similar names. US Cellular, a wireless telephone company, has sponsored several sports venues. US Cellular Coliseum in Bloomington, Illinois, home of the Premier Basketball League's Bloomington Flex. US Cellular Arena in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, former home of the NBA's Milwaukee Bucks and the original Milwaukee Mustangs of the Arena Football League. US Cellular Center in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, home of the Indoor Football League Cedar Rapids Titans. US Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, US Cellular Field at the Reich Center in suburban Green Bay, Wisconsin, home of the IFL's Green Bay Blizzard. US Cellular Community Park, and multi-purpose, multi-sport athletic facility in Medford, Oregon. US Cellular serves as the title sponsor of a NASCAR Nationwide Series race, the US Cellular 250, at Iowa Speedway in Newton, Iowa. It has also served as the presenting sponsor of the 80/35 Music Festival in Des Moines, Iowa, since its inception in 2008. References. External links, stadium site on itsix.com, as4authority.com, andclem.com, ballparksoftbaseball.com, ballparks.com, aerial view of US Cellular Field, US Cellular Field seating chart.